Okay, first up we have Albert. Okay, so yeah, this is looking good. Looks like I can see you've kind of cleaned up the feet here, but it's kind of weird because I think it's good that the feet aren't just sliding around, but it seems like what you've done is kind of just not turned them there. I guess it works okay. I sort of would expect him to face forward completely and not have his feet sideways before he jumps up, but I guess it's not a big deal. Again, from this view, I can't see what he's grabbing onto. However, I would say it's a little bit hard to see, but whatever he's grabbing onto, I would expect his hands to be more stable, so I'd expect them to kind of stick more, and they seem to kind of slide around. So, I mean, if his feet are off the ground, his hands should really be grasping something, but the hands kind of move up and down, and I expect them to stick to whatever it is they're grabbing to, which I can't see. I did talk before about trying a different camera angle for this one. I still think you should do that. I'm guessing it's sort of the ledge that's here that he's grabbing onto, and so if he's grabbing onto that ledge, the hands should really stick, and right now they're not. And maybe we'll take a look at that in the Maya file. This is a nice little thing on the finger grab here. One thing, it's just a smaller point, but if you look at like a frame like this one, see that those lines? I'm guessing you took this through Premiere or After Effects or something like that, and I think you might have interlacing turned on. So turn off interlacing. You want it to be progressive scan, or just I think it's just called progressive instead of interlace. So you get rid of those lines that'll show up with interlacing, which you can see like right there. It's kind of distracting, and that's just when you render out the video from either After Effects or Premiere. So yeah, let's take a look in Maya. I had errors in Maya 2015, so I opened it in 2017. So yeah, let's take a look at this here. Just play at full speed one time through. So yeah, the hands are kind of all over the place, and I think the thing is you've made this extremely difficult for yourself by having the hands in FK mode. This is sort of a definite use for IK. So what you'll want to do is, so let's say God, it's just so hard to see that surface from that angle. He jumps up, and let's say he grabs on this frame, this frame, this frame. So on that frame, which should be in IK mode. So I'll go back one frame. Well, we'll do a blend. So I'm going to switch it to IK here, and the hands will fly off, and we have to fix that. So I'm going to keyframe that, and then I'll go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, here or something, and then put that to FK. So you can see it gradually switches from FK to IK. So let's get those IK hands over here. Where are they? Are these yeah, IK arm. Good. Okay. So let's grab this one and well, okay. Move this into position. Well, here's another problem: is that the body is sort of barely high enough to reach that. But anyways, you'll want to kind of obviously spend more time on getting that position just right, but just going to set a keyframe there, and for the other one, I'm just kind of showing you functionally what you need to do, and you can put the time into, making everything just so it's rotated. It's not. I don't know why the hand's flipping. Actually, could be the hands flipping because let's get these pull vector locator things in a decent spot that will control how the elbow points, something like that, and something like that. Okay. I'm not sure why this hand is flipped. A bit concerned about it. But, I guess we'll just try to unflip it. Um, something like that, and set a keyframe. So now it transitions from the FK to the IK, and you got a little flip going on there with the wrist. Dang it! Don't know why it's flipping like that. But the point of the story is this: is that after it's an IK, see how the hands stick and they're not sliding all over the place. That's what you need to do. And then I think, and then you have to start once he gets a foothold up there. You'll have to animate the hands upward to make room for that. Maybe needs to grab his hands on something else. But while if the hands need to stick to something, and this is a textbook case of it, you gotta switch to IK. It's the only way to do it. It's next to impossible to do it, with the FK controls. And even if you could do it, you wouldn't want to, because then it's too hard to make changes. So as far as the wrist flipping, I really don't know what's going on here, except to say, let's go back here. Let me see if there's something funny going on with the FK wrist. Not really. I thought maybe like somehow it was twisted around. I mean, it's not like some crazy rotation numbers there. Although, yeah, actually it looks sort of like the twist is happening here in the elbow. Let me just try something here. Or maybe here. Let's zero out the elbow. And where is my wrist control? Zero out the wrist. Okay. It already looks a little funny right there, which is kind of strange. So, so I transitioned from 35 to whatever that is, 49. So that's those zeroed out. Is it this twisted or something? Let's kind of zero that out. I'm just zeroing all those things out just to kind of remove any weird variables. And then I'm going to select all of these. And you know what? I'm just going to, everything after this, let's just, for the moment, delete these off. Just as a way to troubleshoot, to make sure that somehow those FK things aren't. What I can see now is that, and now let's check this. Let's zero this rotation out. Does it still? Yeah, it still does that. So, very strange. Not sure. Maybe something in the rigging stage or something. But at least we don't see that crazy flip when it transitions. So, maybe, kind of zero it out and then maybe just subtly get this back into a decent pose. Let's say here, instead of, totally zeroed out, let's just do a little pose here or something. Yeah, something like that. I've got auto keyframe on, do I? Yes. Okay. So now his hands are sticking. So, and then henceforth, with the rest of the climbing, you've got to do IK. You have to animate with IK to do the climbing. It's fine for walking to do FK and stuff like that and gesturing, but for climbing it's got to be. So I think that one thing is going to help you a lot. And then obviously you have to go in and set more keyframes and stuff, and you have to reanimate anything you did with the arms once it's IK, because the FK stuff is now ignored. I think that you can also, I kind of like the feet slipping a little bit, but you do have an issue here. What I imagine doing is I kind of think one of two things is going to happen. Either he keeps his hands on here and he gets a leg up before he moves his arm, because I don't buy him moving up until either he has a foot planted on the top of the wall or his hands grab on something else to lift him up. But here it's just like his feet are moving and suddenly his body moves up. I mean, I guess he got this, but see, he moves up before any foot's on top of the wall. So I think a foot needs to get on, he could swing it up outside his hand. It looks like you're trying to do this thing where maybe he bends his knee really sharply and does it between the hands. Either way, but I think you gotta get a foot planted on the wall before his body, really moves up. I mean, he can move up a little bit, like this thing you're doing. That's working, right? It's just that I guess what I'm saying is he can't release his hands to move his body up until a foot's planted on the wall. It's just like he's levitating here, like there's nothing to lift him up. So get a foot planted on the wall, then push up and then release the hands at that point. So those are the two big things: IK and get the foot planted on the wall before he lifts up. Next up is Vincent. All right, so this is definitely improved. I like the interaction with the handrail. That's good. It definitely helps. And yes, I think some of the timing has improved. At the beginning here, maybe so I guess to me there's like one of two things going on. Either he's sort of standing still here, paused, and then he takes his first step, or he's mid-step. And when I watch this, it's too slow for him to be in mid-step, like when we first cut into the scene. But it's, it's sort of, he would need to start from a stop if he's at rest. So I think either have him at rest and then start moving, maybe take a breath and start moving, or speed this up, as in we're in the middle of that step when we get there. Because right now let me switch to frames. We're, if that's one step, like 40 frames for a step, that's way too long. It should be 10 frames or something, even if it's a slow step, but just that's too long. So, and I like the grabbing of this, but there's a thing where it's like he grabs it and then he instantly lets go of it. I guess you're doing. I'm wondering if this is. This sort of looks like his elbow is a little bit in front of him here and it's a little behind him here. I'm wondering if you cut out some there. We'll look at that. Anyways, I guess what I'm saying is, yes, you should release it. You shouldn't drag the arm back. Although you could slide up the rail a little bit, which I think would look nice. So we've got another grab there, and then you cut to later, so it looks like we've skipped several steps, which is fine. In fact, it's good, because otherwise this is an entire animation of a staircase, so we don't need to see every step, and I think it's fine to do those kind of cuts. It's just that, yeah, I like that grab. That seems to linger a little bit more. I like that the hands are sticking at the end. I think that you could maybe put a little, like at this last part, maybe another hold or two in here. So it's sort of, I mean, all the poses are good and the changes are good and the sort of the sequence is good. I think just maybe put a little more space in there, because it's like he gets to this one pose which looks sort of relaxed. So I would give him a moment to take a breath there, just kind of straighten up and sink down, and then, change poses. But what happens now is like, arrives, pose, change pose. And it feels like, and since this already looks like a somewhat kind of relaxed pose, give it or I'm sorry, this first one, give it a breath, give it a moment, then change poses. And that could be his, moment of thinking, or his changing his mind. Who knows what the reasoning is? But um, add a little time there, add a breath in between the two poses. Um, yeah, I mean, if this is kind of a cut, I might say, it's too close to continuity to cut. I don't know. Let's see if it's in the Maya. Okay, here we are in the Maya file. Oh no, that is continuous, I guess. For some reason it looked like cut or something. Just look at it from another angle. Oh. Oh, okay. That's how you did it. You actually jumped the character forward. Yeah, I guess my thing is like like I said, it's okay to cut like that, but I would be more inclined to cut on a bigger change because it's too close to continuity. Um, like I think you want a bigger change if you're going to do a cut than, than just that one little step forward. Like I think this one's better because he's much lower on the step and then he's all the way up here, so there's no mistaking that that was a cut, that you've, from a creative point of view, editorially decided to remove part of it. Whereas this first one um, is so subtle that it looks like just kind of some kind of pop or something because suddenly he moves forward there. So yeah, I would tend to say make that continuous would be my biggest preference. Um, but yeah, that would be how I approached it. Oh, that's kind of interesting. You know, this whole time, like, this doesn't make sense, but somehow I thought, let's go back to the video. I thought, like, when I was watching this, I somehow thought that when we were looking at him here, partly because I can't see the staircase, like, I thought the staircase was somehow on this side and he had gone to that side. I think what you've done that's a little tricky is you've you've kind of I guess it makes sense because he's near the rail and we're near the rail. I think you're liking this picture, this sort of window framing thing. I wonder if you could get a little bit of the staircase in the shot to orient us a little bit better. Because I guess I've sort of been disoriented this whole time. I didn't realize exactly where we were. Next up is Brittany. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think the movement's looking a little smoother. I'm wondering if you ended up doing the motion path, but however, the camera's a little crazy. It's just whipping around too fast. So, and also, you lose the character entirely in this pan, and we've lost the character, we've lost the character, we've lost the character re-enters here, and then I would expect the camera to at least hold at this point, but then the camera keeps moving, keeps moving, keeps moving, and it's just a little distracting. I think you should go for a simpler camera. I think this one's okay. I might go in a little tighter here. Well, let's just look at it in Maya. So, yeah, I mean, mostly I think the part of the problem is the camera is distracting me from the animation itself, and it gets to be hard to tell what the movement is and what the animation is. I mean, what the camera movement is versus the animation. Um, and that little, so this is pretty believable here. But that last kind of turn and very just sudden stop at the end doesn't seem that believable. And then I think the camera zooming in just also makes the end seem a little abrupt. Let's take a look at Maya. Okay, here we are in Maya. Um, First, I want to just let's take a look at this from another point of view, just to get a better sense of what's going on. Sort of looks like you used a motion path. I'm hoping you did. Wow, this sort of covers a lot of ground there. Um, so it says visibility on. Set. Aha. Oh, you did. Fabulous. Okay, so I think you need a braking motion at the end because I don't necessarily think it's bad that he's going pretty fast in this tight spin, but he needs to slide to a stop, and you have him just bang stopping, and I think that's a problem, with this. I think he needs to decelerate at the end, and I think you need a pose that's a braking motion for like a pose that shows him braking. Um, Because to me, if he did that, what he's doing, he would just keep on coming straight at the camera at full speed. And maybe that's what you mean, and you're just stopping there. But it seems to me there's sort of the arms are coming out to the side, like "ta-da, I'm done," or something like that, where I'm expecting to stop. And I don't know much about skating, but I'm used to that thing that looks like when a skier stops, like when they sort of put their skates to the side and like it sort of sprays out some ice at you is the kind of the typical. Maybe there's other ways to stop. I don't know, but um, so yeah. So animation wise, that's the big thing is having him slow down to a stop and showing a pose that does that. Um, Another thing that's happening here though is let's look at the pacing for a moment. So I mean that speed looks reasonable, but between maybe here and here, so you kind of speed up. It really speeds up at the end there. I think it goes too fast at the end. I think you need to slow that down. I can see that you're adjusting the speed, which is good. Um, but I think that end needs to actually slow down. Let's just have a little play with that. Um, and I think we just want. Why does that look so crazy? Feel like it should just be. Oh, okay. I guess I don't know what is going on with that. Do you even need that? Oh, it's the twist. You've animated the twist. I see. Okay. So this is the actual speed motion path, but the keyframes you put on is you've used the twist. Which, by the way, you can turn off. You cannot use the twist and then just animate the rotate, but it's fine that you use the twist. So I'm not going to worry about the twist. Let's just focus on this. And so what you have here is you have it gradually speeding up, the actual motion of this thing. And what I would say is, I mean, let's just from the start, let's just try the opposite. Let's just have this thing start faster and gradually slow down. And I bet it's already going to look better. It starts out faster and then gradually slows to a stop. So let's take a look at that now. Um, ugh. Just look at it from this angle. I'll go ahead and turn off those curves because those are getting a little distracting. Okay, maybe we don't want wireframe unshaded either. Okay, actually let's just do show, non-show polygons. Aha! See, I like that a lot better. Although I feel like it's going a bit too fast at the start. But then he does. It gets a little weird at the end with those changes of those poses. Although those maybe they changed that fast. So you probably would have to now retime your poses a little bit at the end there. to adjust them. Um, but I think just looking overall at the path of motion, that makes a lot more sense to me than what you had before, where it was gradually speeding up, which also kind of logically didn't make much sense because I don't see him doing anything like pushing. Well, I mean, I guess there is some of this motion which does, you know, but if anything, that it seems like that kind of maintains his speed rather than accelerates him. So, and here clearly he's not doing anything to accelerate himself. So the speed would either remain constant or more likely just gradually decrease. Um, and so let's just, so now the timing of your camera is going to be off anyways. So you can play with that curve. Like maybe I probably went too far here with, how fast it goes at the beginning. Um, yeah, so you may just need to mess with the timing of those last poses now. And then as far as camera, let's just have a little play with that. So, if you want to start here, okay, obviously since we've changed the timing of this, the timing of that no longer works. So what I would be more inclined to do is I'm going to select this and where's the first keyframe? I don't see it. I'll just go ahead and set a keyframe there. Oh, I guess this is the first keyframe at frame 35. So I'm just going to blow these away and go here, and then maybe somewhere like there we'll do a cut. So by the way, you should have your film gate on when you do this stuff, so what your framing is. So maybe I don't know. You can play with this, but the point is, let's change the tangent type to stepped, and let's just do straight cuts. So here's the first shot, cut the second shot, and then maybe somewhere around there we cut to the third shot, and maybe this will be the final shot. I don't know. I'm not in love with the stuff I'm doing. The point of this story is let's do straight cuts rather than um, the the panning and stuff, because it's just maybe this can be a little wider or something. And maybe you want one final one. I don't know. Here, I really I'm not terribly fond of what I've just done, but just conceptually, we can see the action, we can see the action, we can see the action. Oh, okay, that last one didn't work out because it might be helpful to like go here and have a good sort of final position, but then move the timing of that back to where we want it to start, and then just double check this is a step tangent type. Okay. Something went a little funny looking with that last one. I think I might have gotten an extra keyframe in there. That last one, yeah, I ended up with 2 keyframes somehow, so I'll just set it again. Okay. Alright, let's try one more time. Oh, I lost that last one. Alright. Let's try that again. Oh, I see. I just keyframed it where it currently was. It doesn't make any sense. So let's see where he ends up. Get a framing we like for that. But then take that and move it back to here. And Yeah, let's take a look at that. Yeah, better. So, yeah, try to do some of that stuff, adjust timing your poses so that they make more sense, especially towards the end. But, to me, this is already looking better. Okay, next up is Sangjiang. So nice. I mean, it's great to see that you really took the critique to heart, where you gave the character something to do, and they had a book, and it's turning the page. That's perfect. Very good. Really nice improvement. Um, just a couple other little things. One I would say is with the feet, the way they're moving around, I would expect to kind of see one foot planted while the other one moves. I guess what I can't tell from this angle is whether they're both floating above the ground, or if one is set on the ground and the other is floating. It's hard to tell. Or if they're kind of tapping the ground, because we can't see the distance of them to the ground. It's not, it's just a solid field of color. So I guess I would tend to say if one is touching the ground, then I would expect the one to be planted while the other one is moving. Or if they're neither touching the ground, then they can be free and kind of kicking and swinging if you want. Um, but I would give them maybe a more directed thing to do, like maybe they're crossed and they uncross, or they're uncrossed and then they cross, something like that. Because this right now, this movement seems a little aimless. Um, the um, the page turn is pretty good, but I think that afterwards, I think the hand should move out of the way more quickly. It looks a little slow and floaty, that movement. Um, so good, 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 and then just very quickly over a few frames, probably by now it could already have settled on the other side of the book. And the other thing is, I would expect the rabbit, after the page turns, also the head movement could be much more quick, where the rabbit maybe turns to look at what's on this next page here right after it turns it, or quickly looks from this side to that side and back, something like that. How you might look at a book. But right now, those movements, that hand movement and that head movement, look a little slow and floaty, and also they're kind of in sync with each other, and it'd be good to kind of break that up so the head is moving a bit differently from the hand. That look up is good. Um, but again, this movement here feels a little aimless. Like, I'm not sure what you're expressing with that. So this is very clear. Something's over there, right? Now, what you might do, for example, is rather than this kind of somewhat aimless backwards and forwards looking, which I don't know what that means, what you might do is sort of lean the body forward, angle the neck to lean the head in more, squint the eyelids like I'm looking what's over there, and then do the surprise, right? Because like, what's that? Because right now this is like this part here, this middle part is just sort of floaty and doesn't really communicate much. So try to do something like that, like lean forward, tilt the head and squint to look. I realize what it is. It's something scary, and then react. Or you can come up with something else where it's like, I thought I something, but I'm going to look back at my book and then look up and there's a surprise. But something more where we have some idea of what's in the head of this rabbit, the way it's moving its head around. Okay, the next one is Damien. I really appreciate the detail on the stuff you've been working on. That helps. Let's take a look. So first of all, there's a lot of really good improvements here. Like that first move on the hand. I like the way she gets up. Yeah, that's better. Those steps are pretty good. That's looking good. The pivot feels a little. It's all right. Um, I still think this could be, grab. Maybe we just need a beat here after she grabs it before she lifts it up. And then maybe when it gets close to the face, you should do a little like couple frames like of it moving closer, just a little bit, and then relaxing again. Cause see how it like boo stops and totally freezes in the air. It should kind of at the end kind of drift in and back. Kind of almost like a recoil after it hits. Subtle and slow, but what the problem is that it's totally frozen in space. It's like the arm just you know like it's locked there. And you have that drifting movement there, that side to side. That's good, but I think that's the whole body and not the arm. Maybe it's the arm too. Anyways, just a little overshoot and relax. I think is going to help with that. Um, I think this is better. This throw. Something's a little funny that with the path of this thing, because it's like fine, 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 and there it's like it doesn't go far enough. What frame are we on? Like 259, 260, and then suddenly it does speed up. So it's like these middle frames here, like these two. And then suddenly it speeds up really fast. So something in the path of the motion of that isn't quite right because these frames, like it's like from there on out, it's fine. It's a nice fast throw, but the first couple frames, it's like it leaves her hand slowly and then speeds up. So, anyways, probably an easy thing to fix. Um, some hand stuff going there. I think it's good that you're animating the other hand here. I think that looks kind of fast, maybe. That's all right. That's fine. So this walk, I think now, I mean, you've got some up and down movement. Good. Maybe you can tone it down a little bit. But the thing I think that's really hurting this is for the length of her legs, this stride is too short. It's like she's taking baby steps. And that's what's making this difficult. She should have a much bigger stride. Now, she can take sort of smaller baby steps as she approaches the door, right? But these first couple steps, there should be a longer stride. Like, I'd like to see that heel touch down like here rather than there. Because right now it looks like baby steps. So that's the thing to fix on the walk. And I think what you'll find is that the up and down motion comes naturally when you do the longer strides because to be able to do a longer stride and not have the legs kind of overstretched beyond the limit, you have to move the root down. Because otherwise it'll overextend and it'll kind of be stretching and reaching towards it and not able to reach. So, longer strides. And then this wrench thing I thought was definitely improved. I really liked, yeah, and I like the. I just feel like it has a lot of more weight now. I think that's nice. Really good. Yeah, some heft to it. Yeah, good work on that. Clearly, you put some time into that. It's a lot more believable now. Yeah, that works well. Good work on that. Nice. Good stuff. Okay, next up is Tommy. All right. I can see that you have removed the chopping animation from this and added this fall animation at the end. On the other hand, it does not address anything I brought up, which is that the feet are not sticking to the ground at all. They're just kind of moving backwards and forwards and sliding over the surface. Um, and they're not making contact with the surface, which is what I talked about before. and most of the body isn't animated. The hips, shoulders, spine, neck, all those kinds of things aren't animated. So, I mean, the point of focusing on one area was to improve that area, but really now I mean, it really hasn't been improved because it's again the feet are just moving back and forth and sliding over the surface rather than carefully placing the steps and making contact. So yeah, I think just like in my last couple critiques on this, it's sort of the same thing each time, which is that properly place the feet and make contact, and pay attention to all the controls on the body and really focus on your poses. I had some errors, obviously, opening the file, but I mean, I guess I can see what the problem is here, which goes all the way back to the rig, which, as I said at the time in the rigging module, that this rig is not going to work for you. You can't animate with just putting joints in something and have any kind of decent animation. I can see now why you haven't done the walk because you don't have a rig to do it with. Um, and what I had said back then also was that I can give you a rig that will work to use since you don't have one. But there was no way you were going to be able to do a proper animation with this rig because it's a completely incomplete rig. So I think that's kind of what's handicapped you from doing this. And the thing to have done was either follow the module that explained how to rig it and properly rig it, or ask for a rig to use. But at this point, which I'd still be happy to give you a rig to use. So just let me know, and I'll send you a rig that you can use if you want to kind of redo some animation that's works. But obviously we're running out of time now, so um, yeah. You couldn't have done a good animation because the rig isn't sufficient to do it with. Okay, next up is Cindy. Okay, I can see that the timing is improved. I think that what we'd want to see here maybe is, the foot to go down on the ground and push the skateboard so we can see how it moves forward. And then at the other end, maybe you want to see, and probably in this closer shot, you'd want to see maybe the foot hit the ground to help stop the skateboard from moving because right now, the character just pretty much stays frozen on the board. I think that, good that really what it looks like is that you've only moved, two or three of the controls. There's a little bit of neck movement back and forth. There's a little bit of shoulder moving around. There's no spine. There's no foot. And then forgetting about facial or anything like that. So I really think that you really need to use this character, move it around. Use the feet. Use the legs. Use the spine. Use your controls because right now it just looks very frozen. I mean, if you kind of hold your finger or something over the arms, this character is completely frozen. It doesn't look. They don't really look like poses when the character is frozen. It's placed. It looks like a you know. It just looks like it's flapping the arms around. So it doesn't really communicate much too. It just looks like there's not much expression when the rest of the body's not involved. So the other spine controls, the foot controls, like get all that stuff involved and have it make sense or make a point. Maybe even if you don't want to have the character talk and be too literal, like some kind of explanation of like I could imagine something like pointing to one thing and then pointing to another thing and then looking exasperated. Something where a series of poses that communicates more of an idea, whereas here it's doesn't really communicate. What is the idea that the penguin is trying to express? So I think the first step is making sure it's clear in your head what the penguin's trying to express, then come up with a series of poses that expresses that idea. So yes, it's improved, but I think it really has a long way to go from here to look like an animation that expresses something or tells a story or explains something.